Who can peek openly without consequences? The answer, a blind man. This pianist often pretended to be blind to enter people's homes and play the piano, allowing him to spy on their secrets. Some people preferred not wearing pants at home, some went shirtless, and others wandered around completely naked. He took great pleasure in this little game. Little did he know, faking blindness would become the biggest regret of his life. One day, a wealthy man hired him to play at his home. When he arrived, the rich man's wife answered the door. Strangely, she didn't want to let him in. Confused but determined, after all, he'd already been paid, he insisted on entering. As they argued, an elderly neighbor across the hall came out to see what the commotion was. Left with no choice, the woman finally let him in. After helping him to his seat, the pianist was thrilled. He had never played such an extravagant piano before. His fingers danced skillfully across the keys, until suddenly, he froze. In the corner of the room lay a dead body. The music stopped abruptly. Terrified, he excused himself to use the bathroom. But to his horror, a burly armed man was hiding inside. His blood ran cold, but he had to keep up the act. Returning to the piano, he pretended to play while watching the woman and the armed man dispose of the corpse. With her help, the man escaped unnoticed. Miraculously, his acting held up. Once safely outside, he immediately hailed a taxi to the police station. But his shock deepened when the officer who greeted him was none other than the armed man from the house. Panicking, he quickly changed his story. My cat was murdered. But the officer, now revealed as the police chief, was suspicious. Was this man really blind? To test him, the chief insisted on accompanying him home. The moment they entered, the chief spotted a newspaper on the table. It's for my cat to use as a litter pad, the pianist lied. Then, the chief picked up a fruit knife and hurled it toward him. Thanks to his quick reflexes and excellent acting, he didn't flinch, though internally, he was screaming. Finally convinced of his blindness, the chief left. The pianist had narrowly escaped disaster. The next day, the wealthy man's body was discovered in the suburbs. The chief dismissed it as an accident, and the case was closed. But the nightmare wasn't over. More deaths were coming. Soon after, the woman held a funeral for her late husband and invited the pianist to perform. The elderly neighbor also attended and approached the police, claiming she'd seen a burly man enter the house that day. He was likely the killer. But when questioned, the woman denied everything. Realizing her mistake, she knew she had to silence the old lady for good. The next day, she knocked on the neighbor's door, complaining of a headache. The kind-hearted woman rushed to get medicine only for the murderer to fake a collapse. As the elderly woman reached to help, she was shoved off the balcony, plummeting 10 stories to her death.